Hello, everyone, to the Bitcoin Latam Report. I have with me the Bitcoin Libertarian, another podcaster, but we're inversing the role today, so he's going to be interviewed. Welcome, the Bitcoin Libertarian. Is that the only name you're known for, or there's another way we can call you also?
No, my name is Fernando. The Bitcoin Libertarian is just the character of my podcast, but my name is Fernando, and you can call me Fernando.
Perfect. Thank you, Fernando. So it's really interesting because you're actually doing this podcast from Hong Kong, but you do podcasts in Spanish. So can you tell us a bit the story? How did you end up there? And then maybe explain your Bitcoin story because just to introduce the people, the audience to you.
Okay, yes. Well, my story, how I end up in Asia. I'm living in Asia since 2016. I've been living in Thailand first for 4 years. Then I moved to Hong Kong. I end up in Asia because my business partner, that is the other guy who is with me on the Bitcoin Libertarian show and all the Bitcoin content creation, he was living. We are doing business with him together since 2008, and he moved to Asia in 2011. I was used to come to Asia once a year to, I don't know, so talk about business, also travel around Asia. I love traveling. And every time I went back to Argentina, I was feeling that something was missing. So I wanted to come back. I was feeling that I was not fit. I was not happy there. So in 2015, we decided to create a more serious company. At that time, we were just doing like digital nomad style. So once we create the company, I moved to Thailand, and then we moved to Hong Kong. So that's my story, how I end up here in Asia. My story in Bitcoin started in 2011. At that time, as I told you, we were doing online marketing stuff, e-commerce. I was living in Argentina, and in Argentina, I don't know if you know the story, but there was a lot of capital control. You couldn't transfer money from Argentina to other country and from other countries to Argentina. Plus, we were coping with a huge inflation at that time. So we used to transfer money using like these wallets like PayPal. At that time was Neteller, Money Bookers. And one day my business partner came and said, there is this thing called Bitcoin. We can transfer also. It's another PayPal, but it's not transferring US dollars. So you need to use this coin, and then you can change to US dollars. So we start using Bitcoin, and since then we start doing stuff like using mostly for payments, and then started trading that. We started with trying to do trading with Bitcoin because at the beginning we saw it as a payment method. Then we saw it more like a stock. We were doing a lot of Bitcoin and shitcoining and all this stuff. And when the COVID happened, and we were forced to be here in Hong Kong, we discovered Michael Saylor and the Breedlove series podcast together with the Bitcoin Standard Book. And at that time, we finally understood what was Bitcoin, because I have on the profile on my Twitter, it's been, I went to Bitcoin into 2011, but took me 10 years to really understand it. So since I understood Bitcoin, we started posted on X. We grew the account, the Bitcoin Libertarian, in English, because as we were in Hong Kong, we were mostly in English. And in 2022, we decided to create a newsletter called Crossroad, a daily email newsletter, all in English. 2023, I decided to create a podcast also in English. And after YouTube banned our account a couple of times, I decided to create, like, to split, like, okay, we will start again YouTube, but we are going to do English from one side and Spanish from the other side, because I didn't have a lot of connection with the Spanish community. But by then, I think 2023, 2024, I start, because all the content that I consume is in English. So I started to started watching content in English, and sorry, in Spanish, and I saw that there was a huge difference between the content in English and the content in Spanish. The content in Spanish was a lot of super technical stuff like privacy, talking about wallets and all this stuff. And on the other side, the non-technical stuff was more the trading things. People talking about trading, shitcoining, not only Bitcoin. And say I decided, okay, there is a gap here that we need to cover. And that's why I started creating more content in Spanish. And since then, I was invited to speak at La Bitconf last year in Argentina. And since then, we started going all in on Spanish content, doing a daily podcast talking about Bitcoin with Bitcoiners from there. Our model is a podcast similar to the one that Robin Sayre has in English, because I like to just interview Bitcoiners from any background. I don't care, not only the top Bitcoiners. And we also, this year, we started a daily stream show every morning in Hong Kong, night in Latin America, that is talking about mostly about Bitcoin, but not on the trading side, not on the super maximalistic side, like how Bitcoin can change your life and how people need Bitcoin. I think that we are focusing the non-Bitcoiners or the people who is just starting on Bitcoin, and that's my story.
Yes, now a lot to unpack here. Thank you so much. So, by the way, I don't know if you saw, but at La Casa de Satoshi in Mexico City, you know my partner Gustavo, right? A week ago, well, more than a week ago, we did a mini conference with La Bitconf, and they're coming back in May into Mexico City. So maybe I don't know if you have any plans for May. It will be great to see you here in Mexico. I don't know if that will be feasible for you.
The thing is that I have plans for May. The thing is that I'm traveling to Europe on May on the 29th. I have I'm invited to a conference. By the way, I already know Gustavo and La Casa de Satoshi because I had him on my podcast probably 1 year and a half ago, but this channel was taken down. So I'm gonna be hosting him again on Monday. So probably by the end of the month, the podcast will be live in our show. Yeah, on May, I'm planning to go to Europe because I was invited to be a speaker at the Bitcoin Treasuries and Conference in Bristol, the UK. Not planning to go to Mexico, but if any sponsor are around, are listening to here and want to sponsor us to go to Mexico, I would be pleased to go. But no, not plans to go to Mexico in May, but probably at the end of the year, because I'm traveling to La Bitcoin for sure in Argentina in November, and I was invited to Mayan Bitcoin conference. So probably after La Bitcoin, I will go to Mayan Bitcoin conference, and but no plans to go in May yet. But who knows?
Who knows, maybe somebody that has a lot of Bitcoin is listening and will be ready to sponsor your
Of
trip.
course.
I want to get like your perspective on the changes, for example, you have been seeing in Argentina, because you said you started using it there for money transmitting reasons, and you recently came back to La Bitconf. So, have you seen a lot of changes in this decade about how people use Bitcoin? Because what I've heard from a lot of people is that, for example, stable coins are more popular in Argentina rather than Bitcoin. So, what's your perspective? Because you have this like whole decade seeing the space, and you have been a pioneer of this. So, what would you say has changed, and what is left in terms of work to for Bitcoin adoption to be bigger in Argentina?
Well, in Argentina, I was not involved in the community from the beginning because, again, for me at the beginning, Bitcoin was just a medium of payment. Was not something that could probably revolutionize the future of finance. For me, it was just like, okay, you get this, you get paid. Then we saw that the price was changing. So, okay, it's something that you can trade. So what I notice when I checking is that most of the people in Argentina are not focused on Bitcoin, are focused on the stablecoin side. I think that is normal because since we are kids, we are taught to save in US dollars. And usually in Argentina, we save in US dollars. For us, since you are a kid, you get some money, you change into dollars, and you take out of the bank. So for that reason, I think that the stable coins become really popular. When I went in 2000 last year, I didn't see a huge Bitcoin only community, but there are some Bitcoin communities like La Crypta. You can see that they are super maxis, but most of the people, I think that the general public, they are focused mostly in the USDT, in the stablecoin side, and they see Bitcoin as like another kind of stock or like investment method, and they have Bitcoin, Ethereum. I think that in Argentina there is not yet too much understanding on the difference of Bitcoin and all the other crypto space. And again, there is a lot of usage of stablecoin because, of course, the inflation, like as a people using as an inflation hedge and using also to transact with the rest of the world.
And what do you think about the startup and the entrepreneurial space in Argentina? So, for example, Mercado Pago originated in Argentina, is one of the biggest employer in whole Latin America. Do you see it evolving as well? Do you see some interesting projects because you're following everything in Latam
Well,
closely?
well, I think that in Argentina we are like we are really creatives because the environment force us to be creative. I saw a lot of projects that were born in Argentina. I think that Mercado Pago, again, I was not living there through the evolution of Mercado Pago. I was living through the evolution of Mercado Libre, that was basically a copy of eBay. And now I think that everything goes through Mercado Pago. On the other side, we have a huge amount of big projects that work in the Bitcoin space. Rootstock, as an example, was founded in Argentina. There is Roxxon that is founded in Argentina by Argentinians. So I see a lot of potential because, again, Argentinians, we are also trying to avoid the problems of every day. And we are forced to create solutions that probably in other countries, like here in Hong Kong, you are not forced to create solutions to escape the inflation or escape like problems with money transferring and all this stuff. Again, a Mercado Pago I haven't used, but I think it's a good stuff for people. Mercado Libre I used a lot, was amazing at that time. And again, I see a huge amount of projects like, for example, Rootstock, Dollar on Chain was born in Argentina, Roxxon. There is another card that was founded by the now founder of Roxxon, Borja, that is called Lemon Cash. There is now a card that you can pay, like a debit card, you can pay and you get rewards in Bitcoin. So I think that the entrepreneurial space in Argentina is very huge and very can provide a lot to the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah, I actually saw you interview somebody from Doc, right? Milton Rodriguez, he's our friend. Can you give a bit like explanation of what is Doc and what's the problem that it solves? And is it working for people or is it slowly growing? How do you see the growth of this project and Rootstock? Because as you said in other previously, you said you try to not be too maxi, and me as well. I don't believe in being like super toxic. And these kind of conversation, for example, talking about rootstock for some people, it's heresy. So, can you explain why it's important for you, and why do you think it contributes to Bitcoin value and everything?
Well, yeah. Sometimes I'm super maxi, and I'm sometimes I like to be toxic. I like to be toxic when you have to be toxic. But for example, if I go on a debate with people that they talk about shitcoins and all this stuff, I become super toxic. But on the other side, I also try to expand the Bitcoin ethos and the Bitcoin adoption to people that it's not Bitcoiners. So, for example, I'm not this kind of maxis that, okay, only you need to be self-custody, don't use the exchanges or do. So I think so. But what is DOC? DOC is dollar on chain. Dollar on chain is a stable coin that is collateralized with Bitcoin. I'm not too technical on that, but the thing is that you mint dollar on chain if you deposit Bitcoin. In fact, I think that it's not with Bitcoin, it's with the Bitcoin that is generated with Rootstock, the RBTC. So the advantage that has dollar on chain, that is a stable coin like USDT or USDC, is that it's not centralized. So you cannot be censored. You cannot be. You can use your US dollars and your stablecoin without being censored, without being stop your transactions like usually or sometimes happen with USDT, and it's not controlled by a company and are backed 100% in Bitcoin. The usage of this coin is not yet too much, it's not too much famous in Latin America, but lately was introduced to Pitch Bitcoin, like a peer-to-peer exchange, and it's growing. I think when I went to Latin America, it's the adoption of dollar on chain is growing with these apps adopting for swapping with Bitcoin, and also you have these tropicals that is Bitcoin backed loans, and Rootstock is a side chain of Bitcoin that you can use to do smart contracts. Rootstock, what it has is merge the best aspects of Bitcoin together with the Ethereum virtual machine, the capacity of creating smart contracts, and has its own native token that is the RBTC that is pegged one-to-one with Bitcoin. And the most important thing is that security of Rootstock is the same security of Bitcoin, because it's the miners who mine Bitcoin are the ones who give security to the Rootstock network. That's the Rootstock has the advantage to create smart contracts, but with the security of Bitcoin. Are solutions to scale the usage of Bitcoin. I'm not too technical on that side, but basically these are the basics on Rootstock and dollar on chain that are being created by Argentinians.
Yeah, that's great. If you could introduce me to someone technical that can explain that for the podcast, I would love it. But I want to ask you this because, all these projects that are a Bitcoin project, but they use some sort of EVM or, or some use some form of smart contract so they don't fall into the Bitcoin maxi category. They're not exactly maxis and they're not exactly crypto. So they're like in this weird marketing or weird market zone, and they're a little bit apart. That's my feeling that I get out of these projects, and they don't necessarily get the visibility they deserve because they do interesting tech stuff. Like, do you have any thoughts on maybe advice for them how to be more integrated with the Bitcoin communities, or maybe more integrated with the crypto communities? Maybe they shouldn't go after the maxis, they should go after the crypto people and make them interested in Bitcoin this way.
Yes, I think that what happens is that sometimes, again, it becomes too technical. I think that sometimes the usage, for example, I went to a meetup in Argentina that they were talking about the rootstock and all this stuff, and they were explaining the technical side, or you need to do this, this, this. So for the user, sometimes I never used that, so probably I'm getting wrong. But my feeling was that for the user was super technical, that you need to do a lot of swaps and all this stuff. Probably for it's made for the people who is into the Bitcoin and the crypto community, and not it's difficult to be used by the regular people. So what I think is that what we need to do in all the community, the developers, the educators, the everything, we need to start creating things for the regular people. We need to think about these people who is not even in crypto, because we know that probably the environment of Bitcoin and crypto is probably, I don't know, less than 10% of population. So we need to target the other 90%. people who is not even in crypto, who never bought a coin. So we need to target them. That's my goal that I have with my podcast and with the content we create. We try to target people who never bought Bitcoin, who never even got shitcoins on anything. So that's why our message is showing them the problem and showing them the solution that Bitcoin provides, not going into the technical side. Because to be honest, a person who is not in Bitcoin now, they don't even care about the security. If you approach them and talk about yes, because the security, you are sovereign, you keep your seed phrase, and you can travel anywhere without suffering any confiscation, and you can send money everywhere with no problem. Probably these people never faced that problem. So they would say, oh, why I need Bitcoin? If that is something that was worth 126 in October and now is 70. Why should I do this? So I think that we need to target the people. We need to start creating the narratives and the tools for the people who do not use Bitcoin now. Not going to technical, not going, oh, you need to do this peg and all the stuff. Create tools that are easy to use for the people who is not into Bitcoin. I think that we need to target not even the crypto guys. We need to target the regular people that has never used a wallet, a Bitcoin, or a stable coin, or even a shitcoin. So that's my thought.
Regarding your podcast, exactly, you said you want to target normies, or regular people that don't care about the technicalities, or they don't care about super advanced features of Bitcoin. They care maybe about just making money, right? And that's fine. But your persona is the Bitcoin Libertarian. So are you not scared in my scare of people? Where did this persona came from, and can you explain a little bit the branding behind it?
Yeah, the branding was funny because our Twitter was initially was the Bitcoin energy standard. Why? Because the way that we or myself understood the power of Bitcoin was especially because of energy. So at the beginning, I didn't know what Bitcoin was. I just know that it was something that I transfer to another person and was like transferring money. That I need to change the money, the Bitcoin to US dollars, and then US dollars to Bitcoin if I want to pay. And that was not anything else that I know from Bitcoin. When sailors started explaining Bitcoin on energy ways, on energy side, for me was like, okay, that's the point. And our Twitter was the Bitcoin energy standard. So when our account was banned, our YouTube account was banned. That, by the way, we were using the account, the YouTube account from the newsletter for our newsletter is called Crossroad. So our Twitter was Crossroad and our YouTube was Crossroad. We say, okay, we need to use this, but talking about the Bitcoin energy standard, first of all, look like a copycat of safety, and we wanted to create like a person, not like a name. And we were following a couple of people, like for example, the Bitcoin therapist. There are a couple, the Bitcoin magician. I don't know. So we say, okay, we just put the Bitcoin something. I am a libertarian, so I support the libertarian ideas, and I think that Bitcoin has a huge connection with the libertarian ideas. So I decided to change the energy standard to Bitcoin Libertarian. And since then, the Bitcoin Libertarian was born. And we saw more traction from the people because they saw that they were not interacting with a brand or whatever, they were interacting with a person called the Bitcoin Libertarian. So since then, I think that more than 1 year ago, the Bitcoin Libertarian was born and the YouTube channel of the Bitcoin Libertarian was born. And since then, we decided to create this name, this logo, and this branding. But our goal is just now to do a new rebranding on the podcast itself, on the YouTube channel, come back to our original idea that was Crossroad, because Crossroad is because now we are in a in a crossroads. We are in the middle of on a crossroads that if we go to the Bitcoin standard, if we go to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin wins, we are gonna go to the humanity will live a period of prosperity and happiness and abundance. But if Bitcoin loses, we are going to human extinction in 200 years. So that was the cross. So our goal now is make the rebranding of the whole channel, keep the Bitcoin Libertarian as the character of the podcast that now is myself, but also as my business partner is not involved in the show, and he also has his own show, but it's not a podcast. He talks about himself. He talks himself explaining different concepts. Our goal is to rebrand and to create more a media channel, focus on Bitcoin, focus on education, finance, and Austrian economics and all of these things. And the Bitcoin Libertarian remains this toxic maximalist that talks about Bitcoin and every day on the Twitter post, good morning, anything on Bitcoin is a scam. So that's the point.
So basically, you see also your podcast mostly as a business, not necessarily as a passion project, but you want to see
No,
this.
no. For me, it's a passion project because at the end, I don't make money on that. So our goal is to educate people on Bitcoin. Of course, in the future, we can also that a goal is probably turn into a more educational business and something like that. But for me, it's a passion. For me, because to be honest, today we don't make money out of the podcast. So that's the thing. And we put a lot of hours on that. I do it because I like talking about Bitcoin. I like interviewing Bitcoiners. I am a person that I think that when you interact with other people, you learn a lot. That's the main focus. The main focus is not creating a business out of there. Of course, the exposure, and when you are in this road, you start meeting people, you start making connections that probably can lead to other kind of business. But to be honest, in my opinion, the goal is not to make a business out of there, but to spread Bitcoin adoption. That's my main goal. For that reason, I don't care who I interview. I interview people. In fact, I'm most interested in interviewing people who are not well known. There are not these big names on the space, just random people who went into Bitcoin. So everyone can understand other Bitcoiners. But again, the goal is not create a business out of there. Of course, if we can get some returns and make it more profit and make it profitable, especially now on the first part of this project, if we can get some money to make the show better. For example, now I am doing all by myself. Of course, AI helps a lot. Riverside helps a lot. But if we can say, okay, we have this income that we can send, we can use this income to, for example, pay an editor that can create a better content, can create a better edition of the video, or we can buy better cameras, or we can do something like that. That would be the main goal. But I do it as a passion. As I'm a Bitcoiner, I am the person who believes that, again, we are in a crossroads. We are in the middle of a historic point of humanity where we must fight for Bitcoin. We must paint the world orange, because if Bitcoin wins, humanity is going to have, I don't know, it's going to go to another level. We're going to reach abundance. I see Bitcoin as a bridge from our society that now has a scarcity. That scarcity is not because of the technology, is because of fiat money. And we have to go from scarcity to abundance. So I envision Bitcoin, this bridge to go from scarcity to abundance. Humanity will reach abundance when Bitcoin wins. I think we will end poverty, we will end hunger, we will end a lot of problems that we have now. And then Bitcoin will move to another, because I see Bitcoin I don't see Bitcoin as a currency or as money for a long time. So I think that Bitcoin will be used as money until we reach the abundance. When we reach the abundance, Bitcoin will switch to another use. That probably my goal, my vision to that is like probably Bitcoin will become. I don't know if you saw the movie Avatar.
The last one, I didn't see it.
No, I saw the first one and the second one, but in the movie Avatar, the Navi population used to get connected with nature. They used to have this energy around the planet where they put all the knowledge of their civilization, the knowledge used by the humanoids, the animals, the vegetation, the history, the science was all in this database. So what I envision is when Bitcoin is not used anymore as money because we reach abundance, Bitcoin will be this huge database where we are gonna store all the knowledge of humanity, all the knowledge of humans, animals, plants, universe, and we can go there to get the information that we need on demand and open to everyone. The same way that now everyone can go to Bitcoin and use it as a bank account without any permission, without any control, without any third party, without any verification. So that's why I see the future, and it's a future that is worth fight for. The problem is that again, we now live in a fiat world, and we are still with that. But again, my goal is not to create a business. My goal is to teach people and to boost the hyper Bitcoinization and this jump from this world where we have hunger, we have poverty, we have inequality, to this other world, this post monetary world where we live in abundance and humanity will reach levels that we cannot even think about that.
So for sure, you wouldn't be a not node runner if you want to put all the information of humanity on the Bitcoin blockchain. They will not like you for this for sure. And it's really interesting vision. I really like the optimism. I think there is a lot of doomerism in our age. Everybody's kind of saying AI will take over, everything is bad. So it's really refreshing that some people are still looking forward to the future and hoping that the world will go to a better place. We're gonna have to work for it for sure. I believe as well. We can reach that if we work. I don't know about necessarily money not existing. That's up to for debate, but that's a really interesting vision. I still wanted to explore a little bit more the not the technical side, but the practical side of doing a Bitcoin podcast. You said this is something you do as a passion, and I do believe there is a tons of podcasts that could be started by anyone because if you have one listener, it means somebody finds something you have to say valuable, so you should do it. So what will be your advice for somebody that's starting a podcast, somebody like me, for example, that has not necessarily the same objective, but what would be your advice? You said you use AI, you say you use different tools. Yeah, curious of what you have to say in regards of that.
Well, first of all, let me point out about the AI. I think that AI is the. I'm so bullish. That's something that we also talk about in our channel, because I think that Bitcoin and AI go together, and AI is gonna be again. It will help us to reach this abundance in the future and to. But anyways, so I think that we need and our goal to reach this world of abundance that is through Bitcoin is to fight for this and contribute to the Bitcoin ecosystem in any ways that we can. For example, I am not a developer, so my best way to contribute is this, doing podcasts. For a person who wants to start a podcast, it's super simple. You just need a computer. You just need, there are a lot of platforms. For example, my favorite is Riverside because you record the podcast and you do the whole post production with the AI from Riverside. You can do edition of audio, video. The AI prepares description of the podcast, the timestamp, the keynotes. Also, the AI of Riverside prepare the shorts that you can upload to YouTube to boost the reach. Of course, the shorts are not the best, but sometimes you need to say, okay, I need to start producing content. And if I look for perfection, I will be stopped. So my first advice to anyone who wants to start a podcast, for example, is just start. Don't look for perfection, and not even a podcast, anything in life. Because if you look for perfection, you're gonna be stuck. If you're gonna say, okay, I will start a podcast, which mic I need, which camera I need, which lighting setup I need, or which, for example, okay, I will search for an editor, I will search for a person who designed the thumbnails. And probably by thinking all of this, you lose a lot of time. So you just need to shoot and start uploading content online. During this process, you will find the way to become it better. And again, with AI, everything is super simple now, because I use AI I use Riverside and the AI that Riverside has inside. When I just create an episode, after recording, I have the shorts created, the clips created, I have the description to paste in YouTube, the timestamp to paste in YouTube. Previous to the show, when I have a guest, I do the research for a guest using AI. So I use Grok. I say, okay, give me the background of this person, prepare an introduction for this person, prepare questions for this person. And usually in the past, without AI, if I have a guest, I need to research for at least 2 days about the guest, of what he or she's doing, he or her background, some think about the question. Here I can do it 2 hours because I put to AI, and the only thing that I have to do is to verify that the information that the AI gives me is true. So it takes me 2 hours. So with that, I can do podcasts every day. Otherwise, would be impossible. The thumbnails, I also do with AI. So all these things using AI, it make you save a lot of time and also save a lot of money, especially when you are starting. Because imagine that you have to do something, you think, and you do the perfect setup, the perfect video editor, the perfect thumbnail designer, and nobody listen to you, or you have 1 or 2 or 3 people who is watching your episodes. Because at the beginning, this is going to happen. At the beginning, you are going to upload a video on YouTube and you think that you make it perfect, and you're going to have 3 or 4 views or 50. So, and that's the point. My advice is not only for podcasts, for anything you want to do in your life, just shoot. Just don't lose time in thinking too much. Just start doing, because something there, I don't know who said this quote, but it's better an imperfect plan executing today than a perfect plan executing next week. And the other quote, this is from the people who we were inspired to create the newsletter, that is the people from the news that created the newsletter Milk Road. They have a podcast called My First Million, that they talk about a lot of business ideas. And they said that if the first version of your product don't embarrass you, you are not launching fast. So you are launching late. So again, you need to, you can do, now it's like you can do everything by yourself using AI. So don't overthink, just start doing and start uploading and start getting the feedback. That's my biggest advice. That's why I started. I started with this in 2023. I faced a lot of and also don't get dismotivated if something wrong or something bad happened in the middle. I got my YouTube channel took down like four or 5 times, and I started again. And I never lose the passion, never lose the motivation. And again, just do it. That's the thing. Just try to do with the time you have. Try to be consistent. I don't know if any other advice that I can give.
No, that's really great advice. But yeah, that's the big question. Why did you got your channels got banned? Why do you think? Have you tried to
Well,
appeal or?
usually it's YouTube stupid stuff, but it was not because of the content. The first was taken down because I uploaded some shorts that were taken from another. I have a guy who used to upload at that time, like a virtual, like an assistant that used to upload, and probably he took some shorts from other people that were copyrighted. And I got in YouTube, if you have 3 strikes, you get banned. The second time was because I had my channel, I had many channels on the same email, so under the same email. So one of these channels that I was using for other stuff, not crypto related, not Bitcoin related, was something about Argentinian politics, probably was attacked or was taken down because of that. And of course, they take down one channel and they take down all the channels under the same name, under the same email. And the last time was probably because I sent my ID and this ID was used for another channel that was taken down. I think that these were the problems, not because of the content, not because of we were speaking, but I think that we were taken down for that. But in the process, you learn. That's the thing. So then I started focusing. Okay, we are not gonna upload shorts stolen from Twitter or whatever. We are gonna upload our own content, our own stuff. Usually, the only thing that I use for from other creators is that on Sundays I do a live stream, and during this live stream I do reactions to other channels, but just small, and this is aligned with YouTube terms and conditions because you can use content from another person, but if you do some opinion or reaction or something and your face is there, it's not that you put the content of other person in your channel. But yeah, are things that you it's a learning curve. So that's the another advice. Don't try to create your own content. Don't try to be so polemic and again. But anyways, if you do you can do everything correct and YouTube take down your channel because these big tech are like this.
But isn't that scary? You know, like building this content, having a lot of followers that follow you for years, and then at some point it gets removed. I don't know if you saw like a few months ago, BTC session, which is one of like the most successful and biggest content Bitcoin content producer. His account got removed, and he creates like huge value for the community, and it was his way of making a living, right? But there was so many reaction that finally YouTube saw all the reactions and they got it back. So what do you think is the solution for that? Are you already exploring,
Oh,
Nostr?
the solution is I upload. First, you need to create a community because why BTC Sessions could recover his channel because he's a huge creator. He has around 300K followers. So nobody, of course, if I am taken down, probably 3 or 4 people will notice. This guy, no. So it creates this snowball of people complaining to YouTube, and finally also, I think that another channel was taken down, Simply Bitcoin. I think that also was taken down. But you need to think that this can happen. So you need to start creating other channels. For example, I have my YouTube channel, but I also have Rumble. I also post on Spotify. I also post, well, on X. I also have Instagram. I also have Nostr. The problem with Nostr is it's super niche and it's very difficult yet to create. I would love to have my videos on Nostr, but today it's really difficult. We need more. Instead, as you said before at the beginning, people who a lot of Bitcoin that can be a sponsor of a trip for me to Mexico. I'd rather instead of sponsor my trip to Mexico, that sponsor projects on Nostr that we can create more of these channels like a YouTube for Nostr, a Spotify for Nostr, all these things, so we can fight against censorship. Because again, YouTube, one day they don't like what you are doing, either you get demonetize, or either you get the platform, because I also saw many videos of other creators that they are demonetized from one day to the other, and they don't know why. And probably they are making a living on that. So it's not that your voice is, for example, in my case, every time they took down my channel, my voice was silenced. But for other people, it's their way of living, and not only their way of living, the way of living of the editors, the thumbnail designers, people who do the production, etc. So I think that we need to move to start creating. That's what I say. Big Bitcoin whales, please support projects that create decentralized media on Nostr, because it's needed not only for Bitcoin, it's needed for the world. We need decentralized media. I love this vision of going to Nostr and getting paid for the value you create, not because you are getting paid because YouTube use your platform to show advertising to other people. So I think that we need this because it's real proof of work. To be honest, if you are good in Nostr, you get paid because the content you produce, and if you produce crap, you don't get paid. So we must keep keep growing all these platforms. But yes, we have alternatives now, but they are not enough.
Yeah, definitely. I think also you should, as much as possible, host your own stuff, have your own website, because also the algorithms of recommendation change from one day to another. So you could have a lot of views and impression and one day the algorithm changes and you don't get recommended anymore. So if you have at least like a core base of fans in your website where nothing can happen and they always come back and see what you're doing, then
Yes.
it's more easier to go back on your feet if something happens with one of the platforms.
Yes, we already have. I don't know if I can share my screen. I will share my screen with the Twitter. So if you see our X here, you can see that this is our platform that is 24/7 showing the all the episodes, and you can use this platform. I can upload the videos without using YouTube. But again, I have my own platform, but it doesn't have the reach that YouTube has. So
Yeah,
that's we are a hostage of the platform. So again, of course, we are building a lot of stuff to be independent. For example, the newsletter. We started doing the newsletter in 2022, and on the middle we got demonetized from the newsletter. And to be honest, we are creating other stuff, but of course it's slow at slow pace. And these platforms have all the traffic, because on the other side you have Rumble. Rumble is super good, but Rumble has not the traction that YouTube has. I think that, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because you interview so many people from Latin America and entrepreneurs. You interview people running communities, projects. So I'm curious, what has been your observations in the past year? For example, what's working? Is there certain countries where you see more traction of Bitcoin companies growing? Do you see what are the challenges? Maybe you can start by the opportunities you have seen so far with your interviews in the last year, and what's missing. What do you think it's missing?
Well, what is missing, in my opinion, is more education. That's the most important thing. So I mean, we need more people to create original content, educational content, especially for those who are not on Bitcoin yet, not for to technical stuff. Because again, there are a lot of YouTube channels that are being focusing on the technical side of Bitcoin, on the privacy side of Bitcoin, on the that is super important. It's not I'm saying no, this is not important, but we need more channels who can teach the people what is Bitcoin, who can teach the people what to change their time preference. So that's I think that this is one of the things. On the other side, there are a huge amount of projects across Latin America, projects like again Dollar on Chain, Rootstock. I interview the people from Arcadia B, that is the company from the treasury company from Mexico. Bull Bitcoin is super big. So I think that in the way of in the product side, I think that we have a lot of things and many other things are being developed. I would like to see more developments into the Nostr side and the decentralization of media that I haven't seen yet in Latin America. And on the other side, I saw a lot of communities that are growing, circular economies, communities that teach Bitcoin and do like meetups and all the stuff. I think that this is my take on that. On the business side, we have a lot of good developments. I would like to see more developments into the Nostr ecosystem and the decentralized media ecosystem. And on the other side, we need more education. We need more education because, as I said, in the Bitcoin content, there is a huge amount of creators that focus on the privacy, on self-custody, on things that are really important when you already are a Bitcoiner for a while. And on the other side, and these are the channels that get the most of the hype, you have a lot of people talking about trading, talking about meme coins, talking about a lot of this crap. So we need to think to teach the people that Bitcoin is not for making money on trading. It's for the future. It's for your retirement. You need to hold. That's what I want. You don't have to see, okay, yes, because Bitcoin now is on this price. It's a good time to buy. Or when reach this price, I will sell. So that's the thing that I'm seeing. So we need more education, more communities, and this I think that with the education and with the communities will come new ideas of things that are needed on the communities, and the developers will create that. So that's my take on that.
And from the entrepreneurs you interviewed, what do you think is necessary to successfully make a business, Bitcoin business in Latin America? What, in your opinion?
I think I admire the entrepreneurs that they work in Latin America because I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I think all the problems that they have in Latin America, running a business with a lot of regulation, with inflation, governments, corrupt governments, I think that it's a huge challenge. On the other side, I think that again, we must get. I think that the problem that is the scalability because probably not many people uses, but I think that as long as you can create probably more simple tools that solve problems of a bigger amount of people, I think that you can be successful. So that's my take on that.
If you had to recommend top 3 episodes of over the last year of your podcast, who should it be?
I would be unfair with a lot of people who is come to my podcast because I also repeat that the biggest I think that we are becoming successful. We are getting a lot of good traction. And for me, it's not because of me, it's because of the people who come to my podcast, the people who listen to that, because I like to say when someone come to my podcast, they are giving me the only asset that they cannot recover at this time. So that's a good thing. So if I don't mention all, I will be being unfair with many of them. But if I have to choose three, one is the one. Let me open here let me check the YouTube, and I will let you know. Let me check. Let me check what is here. Let me read the content. Well, the first one, what I like is with the episode with Joel Serrano. Joel Serrano is an Austrian economist that finished his PhD, and his PhD thesis was about Bitcoin. This was amazing because I am an economist by education, and I support the Austrian School of Economics, and I am also committed to try to mix the two worlds because in the Austrian School of Economics, I think that Bitcoin makes a lot of sense, at least for me, but for the big amount of the academics, they don't see Bitcoin as a tool. So this is one of the shows that I like, and the top one. Then another one, let me check. The second one, let's see, is the story of a guy who bought a car using Bitcoin in the early days. He spent 77 Bitcoin for a car. He's the Argentinian Laszlo. He is the Argentinian Laszlo. And the other one is, I want to recommend one that we have last week that is from Yuri from La Isla BTC. He's a doctor from Cuba that became a Bitcoiner, and he's running a Bitcoin community and creating a circular economy on an island called Isla de la Juventud, the island of youth. It's far away from the capital city of Cuba. And I love because he talks about all the difficulties that Cuba has and how he's solving all these problems to teach people about Bitcoin. And it's incredible because they have probably 4 hours of energy per day. They have a crap internet. And even though with all these limitations, they are making Bitcoin work. They are teaching people about Bitcoin and they are giving education and creating a huge community. Yes, for me, the episode with Joel, I will pick. The episode with Luis, that is the guy who spent 77 Bitcoin for a car in Argentina, that we call it the Laszlo, the Argentinian Laszlo. And another one is with Yuri, that is amazing what he's doing in Cuba with his project.
Amazing. I will go listen to them and give in the description. I will put the link to make sure people can go see. But obviously, as you said, I think every episode is valuable, and it's about the whole, not just single episodes.
Yes,
Uh,
because sorry for interrupting you. The thing is that that's my goal on the podcast because I think that everyone has something to tell. Everyone has something valuable to give. Even though if you have 50 followers on X or if you have 1 million and are an OG. So my goal is try to interview these people that probably they don't have a lot of followers and their message is not being reached by the big amount of people. So probably with my platform, they can reach more people. And it's the same what happened. I have also my podcast in English, of course, has not the same traction as the podcast in Spanish because I don't create content so often on that. But I like to interview a lot of people from Africa, and the things that they are doing in Africa are amazing. And again, they all have a lot of good stories to learn. Probably more interesting if I interview, I don't know, Saving or Sailor or one of these top people. How do they deal with the problems, the day-to-day problems, and they solve? This is amazing because Bitcoin is about that. Is fight against day-to-day problems and solve and succeed against all odds.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I had a podcast in French before, and I was interviewing some people in Africa, and they had really fascinating stories and solutions because obviously they have more hardships there and probably some limitations, so they have to be even more creative to solve their problems. Yeah, I think I made kind of the tour of your podcast and your person. I guess my last question will be, do you miss Latin America, and do you ever think about coming back? Like Hong Kong is so far and so far away, but maybe that's your new home as well. So maybe you can share a little bit your feelings about
Yes.
living so far from
Oh,
home.
I like to say that I'm a special person that I don't miss. So because again, if you miss, well, you're living in Mexico, and I think that you are from. Where are you from?
Canada.
Okay. So you live near your house, but your home country. But if you miss, you cannot live abroad. That's the main point. You cannot even live in another city that you were born. So I'm not a person who miss. What motivates me to go to live in abroad is to, again, is the growth. When you live abroad, and especially in an environment that is totally opposite from the environment you were born, because let's say if I go to live to Mexico, yeah, probably they have different, I don't know, different cultural stuff, different food, but we are the same. Even if I go to live to Europe, if I go to live to Spain, France, even East Europe, Hungary or Poland, it's the same. But here it's like coming to another planet. It's totally different, not only because of the time difference, because of their cultural stuff. And that's what when you do this, when you get exposed to this out of your comfort zone, you grow a lot and you learn a lot. And when you live abroad, especially when you start traveling. I started traveling when I was 22, 23, alone, especially backpacking. And you start discovering, usually when you come from a country, especially from Argentina, you think that all of what you do is the best of the world. Like the food is the best of the world, the women are the best of the world, the nightlife is the best of the world. And when you start traveling, you discover that this is not true, that every country in the world has things to share. And you start knowing different cultures, getting exposed to different way of living, getting exposed to different foods. So many people ask me, do you miss Argentinian meat? And I say, no, I don't miss, because I enjoy what I do here in Asia. On your question, if I would come back to Argentina, I don't see myself coming back. I think that Asia is now the place where I want to be. Hong Kong, it's amazing, and in a couple of months, I will be able to apply to my permanent resident. What it means that I will become a Hong Konger. I'm not gonna have a passport, but I will have the permanent resident. That it means that I don't have to apply for a visa anymore. The only problem is I have to be only 1 day every 3 years here in Hong Kong. So that's a goal. And probably once I get this, I want to probably experiment other places in Asia. I want to stay in Vietnam for a while, but I don't see myself coming back to Latin America. Saying so, there are probably, let's say, I need to run a project in Latin America, or I need to grow the podcast, or and it requires to move myself back to Latin America for a while. I wouldn't have any problem, but I want to stay here. I don't yet have family, but I want to have my family here. I want to have my kids here. So that's the way the part of the world that I think that is my part of the way. It's like the way the place. This is the place of where I want to live. I feel really comfortable here, and that's why I come back to Latin America, and to be honest, I feel really good when I am there. I enjoy a lot when I'm in Argentina, but coming to live, unless it's again probably to run a project or run something that I am interested in. Otherwise, I wouldn't be back to live there.
Well, congrats on that, on finding your new home. It's a little bit similar. That's how I feel now with Mexico versus Canada. So I totally get the feeling that, you don't really miss. You have to move on and make your life somewhere else. So, respect for that. And congrats on your residency. That's great news. I'm also getting my permanent Mexican residency in a few months. I mean, it's probably way easier than the Hong Kong one. Maybe a follow up question about that. Is there a Bitcoin community in Hong Kong, or is there any tax advantages or of being a
No,
bit?
yeah, the taxes here are amazing, because I think that in average it's around between 8 and 12%. The maximum tax, if you are super rich, are 16%, something like that. So the taxes are amazing. The other thing, the other thing that I like from Hong Kong is that it's super small, and everything is not more than 1 hour far away from your house. Like, for example, if you want to go hiking, it's 1 hour, maximum 1 hour away from your house. If you want to go camping, the same. If you want to go to the beach, I have to walk 20 minutes and I go to the beach near my house. Of course, it's not the best beach in the world, but it's a beach. So that's good. So I love this connectivity of Hong Kong, that everything is close and you have the connectivity with China, and the public transportation works really well. Talking about Bitcoin community, again, I think that the biggest Bitcoin community are in the countries that really need Bitcoin. Hong Kong is a place where you don't need Bitcoin, because the banking system works perfect. You have a lot of applications to pay. You can pay with credit card and Apple Pay on the 7-Eleven for just 20 Hong Kong dollars for a can of Coke. So that's the thing. People see Bitcoin more as another investment and another stock to trade. And there is a small Bitcoin only community, but also there is a huge shitcoin community because there are a lot of projects related with Web3 and all these things. In fact, next week is coming this conference Consensus, that is a very big shitcoin conference, and the mix with the finance, the DeFi with the traditional finance, and there come people from HSBC speaking. So there is a big shitcoin conference.
So you're probably not going out this week and doing more Bitcoin podcast hiding, right?
No, for sure, I'm not gonna be on the conference. To be honest, I applied to be a speaker on the conference. I don't know what can I speak about to get a free pass, to get a free ticket, but I was not accepted, so I'm not going. I'm not going. Also, there is the Bitcoin conference here in the Bitcoin Asia. They organize here in Hong Kong in August. But yeah, here in Hong Kong is mostly shitcoin. There are people using Bitcoin. We have the Bitcoin ETF. We have a lot of exchanges, but people don't understand what Bitcoin is because they don't need Bitcoin. In Latin America, people need Bitcoin, or in Africa, people need Bitcoin, and that's why they understand. But the Bitcoin community here is not so big, but it is what it is.
Great. Okay, so if anyone is, looking to go to Hong Kong, I guess they can message you. They can meet with them for a beer or a coffee or whatever.
Of course.
So yeah, it was really great having you. Interviewing a fellow podcaster. I don't know if you felt a little different than being interviewing someone than being interviewed. So I hope you like it. Any last words to the?
No. Oh, well, I feel like really good. Yeah, usually I'm a person who likes more to talk than to listen. So for me, being invited to a podcast is amazing because I can talk and I can talk about my ideas about Bitcoin. Any last words that, again, if you are a Bitcoiner, try to give back something to Bitcoin. Try to fight for Bitcoin, because I think that all the things that I'm speaking about the future, I think Bitcoin is the bridge between scarcity, poverty, hunger, to a world full of abundance. So it's a battle that is worth fighting for. If you want to start a podcast or something, just start. Just you need a computer, and you need even if you don't want to pay, you can start with the basic Zoom free plan that only allows you 45 minutes of recording. But again, do things for Bitcoin. Just if you want to create a podcast, start. If you want to do developer, start. Try to participate in communities. Try to think what is needed for the massive adoption. And again, that's my final take on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Fernando, also known as the Bitcoin Libertarian. This was the Bitcoin Latam Report, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.